They said the dog was dangerous. Every kid on the street knew it. Parents warned their children, stay away from that fence. Behind the tall iron bars lived a big German shepherd with eyes that didn't blink and ears that never dropped. He paced in silence, like a shadow waiting for something or someone. People whispered stories. He attacked a boy once. He bit his owner. He's not right in the head. But no one really knew, except maybe Ellie. She walked past that fence every day after school. 10 years old, skinny, always wearing that blue backpack with one broken strap. She walked slow. She limped a little. Most days, her eyes stayed on the ground, but one afternoon, she stopped. The dog stared at her through the bars. He didn't bark. He didn't move. Ellie looked up. "Hi, boy," she said quietly. The dog blinked. That was all. But something shifted. The next day, she passed by again. This time, she paused for a moment longer. "You look lonely," she whispered. The dog didn't growl, didn't snarl. He just sat down slowly, his body tense like he wasn't sure what was allowed. From behind the curtains, an old man watched, Mr. Harold. He was the one who owned Rex the dog everyone feared. He didn't say much, didn't wave, but he watched. 3 days passed, then 4. Every day, Ellie said something. "You have sad eyes. My teacher says dogs understand more than people think. I wish I could pet you, but they say you bite." Rex stayed quiet. Sometimes he walked beside her along the fence. Other times he just sat there, watching her leave. One day, Ellie pulled something out of her Paquita half peanut butter sandwich. She held it through the bars. "You hungry?" Rex didn't move. He looked at her, then at the sandwich. "It's okay," she whispered. "I won't hurt you." He stepped forward, slow and careful. Then, gently, he took the sandwich and backed away. That's when she smiled. "Good boy," she said. From his window, Mr. Harold watched it all with narrowed eyes that night. Rex didn't sleep near the porch like usual. He curled up near the fence, right where Ellie always stood. The neighborhood noticed. A boy on a bike said, "That dog didn't bark at me." A woman muttered, "Maybe the girl cast some spell." But Ellie didn't care what people said. "I think you're not mean," she told Rex one day. "I think people just don't try to understand." Rex let out a low whine. He pressed his paw gently against the bars. Ellie placed her hand near his paw, not touching, just close. "You feel safe," she whispered, "even though you're supposed to be scary." She sat on the sidewalk for a bit, resting her back against the fence. "My mum says not to talk to you, but she doesn't see how you look at me." Inside the house, Harold muttered, "That girl's got no sense." But he didn't stop her. He just stared at the old photo on his shelf, the one with Rex and a smiling teenage boy who wasn't around anymore. One afternoon, Ellie came by with a tiny paperback book. "Wanna hear a story?" she asked. She sat cross-legged by the gate and started reading out loud. Her voice was soft, sometimes stumbling over the words, but Rex stayed, ears twitching, eyes watching her face. As she read, she paused and giggled. "You're listening, aren't you?" The pages fluttered in the breeze. Rex blinked slowly, lowering his head to the ground. Ellie smiled. "I think you like stories." The sky turned orange. Streetlights flickered. "I gotta go," Ellie said, standing up, "but I'll come back tomorrow. Promise." She limped away, her steps uneven. Rex stayed by the bars until she vanished down the road. That night, Harold sat on the porch. Rex didn't curl up near the door. He lay by the fence again, eyes on the sidewalk. "You miss her already?" Harold asked softly. Rex didn't move. The next morning, Ellie was late. Rex waited. Noon passed. Then afternoon. Then evening. She didn't come. Rex paced. He scratched once at the bars, then twice. Then he let out a low, confused whine. Harold stepped outside. "What is it, boy?" Rex stared down the road. He barked once. It was the first sound he'd made in days. That night, rain fell, hard and cold. Thunder rumbled far off. Rex didn't go inside. He sat at the gate, drenched, watching midnight came. Still no Ellie. Rex lowered his head. Then he howled, long and loud inside. Harold sat up in bed, heart pounding. He hadn't heard Rex howl since ... He stepped to the window. The dog was soaked, shivering, eyes locked on the dark street. Something wasn't right. Harold stared at the wet sidewalk, and in that moment a memory returned of a boy who once said, "He's only mean when he's scared." Harold grabbed his coat. Outside, Rex stood as if waiting. "Where is she, boy?" Harold whispered. Rex didn't bark. He just looked down the street, then back at Harold. Somewhere far off, a siren cried. The old man frowned. "You feel it too, don't you?" Rex let out a low growl. Harold tightened his grip on the fence. "Tomorrow," he said, "we find out what's going on." Rex lay down, eyes wide open, waiting for morning. The next morning, Rex didn't move from the fence. His fur was still damp from the night rain, but his ears perked up at every passing step. He waited, eyes fixed down the street. Then, just before noon, a small figure appeared limping slightly, dragging a worn-out backpack. It was Ellie. Rex stood. His tail gave one slow wag. Ellie reached the fence and crouched down, breathing hard. She looked tired, more than usual. "Sorry I didn't come yesterday," she whispered. "I got in trouble for being late. Mom said I shouldn't stop here anymore." Rex winced softly, pressing his nose between the bars. "But I missed you," she said, pulling a small sandwich from her coat. "I saved you the peanut butter part. You liked that last time, right?" She held it out. Rex sniffed, then gently took it from her hand. "There you go," Ellie smiled. "Good boy." She sat on the sidewalk, back resting against the fence. Her limp was worse today. One knee had a scrape. "You know what's funny," she said. "People think you're scary, but you're the only one who doesn't yell at me." Rex lay down behind the bars, his head near her leg. He didn't blink, didn't flinch. "I get yelled at a lot," she murmured. "Mostly for things I don't even do." She pulled a tattered notebook from her bag and opened it. "Wanna hear a story?" Rex gave a soft grunt, almost like a yes. Ellie giggled. "Okay, but you better listen." She read slowly, stumbling on some words, but kept going. Every few minutes, she'd pause to explain something or look at Rex like he was a student in her class. "You're better than any of the kids at school," she said. "You don't laugh when I mess up." Rex nudged the fence with his nose, pressing closer. His eyes never left her face. When the last page was done, she closed the notebook. "Do you like stories?" she asked. "I could bring more." Rex raised one paw and gently touched the bars. Ellie reached out and placed her hand against his. Not touching, just there. "I knew you weren't bad," she whispered. "I just knew it." Across the street, a woman walking her dog paused. "Hey girl, you shouldn't be near that fence." Ellie jumped up, hiding her book. "I was just walking home," she called back. The woman frowned and kept walking, muttering something under her breath. Ellie turned to Rex. See, everyone thinks you're mean, but they don't even look at your eyes. Rex sat, ears down, tail still. Ellie reached into her bag again. I brought crackers too. You want one? She pushed one through the bars. Rex took it gently. Good boy, she said softly. Always so gentle. This became their routine. Every day after school, Ellie came by. Some days she brought snacks. Other days she brought books or just stories from her life. My mum works all day now, she told him once, and when she's home, she's tired or mad. Rex tilted his head. I don't think she means to yell, Ellie added, but it still hurts. She looked down at her arm. A faint bruise peeked from under her sleeve. Rex leaned closer. He gave a soft whine. You're the only one who notices, she said. Everyone else just looks away. Mr. Harold watched from his porch some days. He never said anything. Just sat in silence, eyes on the girl and the dog. One day, he walked. Over, Ellie froze. Don't be scared, he said gruffly. Just be careful. I am, Ellie whispered. He don't bite, Harold muttered. Not anymore. Ellie blinked. What happened before? Harold didn't answer. He just walked back inside. Rex lay down again, head flat against the ground. Was it true? Ellie asked. Did you really hurt someone? Rex didn't react. It's okay, she said. I've hurt people too. Not on purpose. But sometimes when I get mad or scared. She stopped talking. A breeze passed. Rex's ears twitched. Ellie smiled again. You're the only one who listens all the way. One afternoon, Ellie brought something new, a scarf. It's old, she said, holding it out, but it's warm. You looked cold yesterday. She pushed it through the bars. Rex sniffed it, then poured it close. He didn't wear it. Just kept it nearby, curled around it like it mattered. You like it, don't you? Rex lowered his head. From that day on, he waited for her, right at the bar, scarf beside him, tail wagging softly when she approached. But one day, Ellie didn't smile when she came. She walked slower, dragging her feet. She didn't sit. I might not be able to come tomorrow, she said. Rex stood, ears alert. I think something's happening. I heard my mum on the phone. She said she was tired of me sneaking around, said she's gonna stop it. She crouched by the fence, voice shaking. What if she doesn't let me out at all? Rex let out a deep, low growl, not at her, but at the world. Ellie pressed her forehead against the bars. I'll try, okay, I'll try to come, even just for a second. Rex placed his paw against the gate again. She reached up and touched it. I won't forget you. I promise. Then she stood and walked away, not looking back. Rex stayed at the gate the rest of the evening.
If you feel connected to this story, please like, share, and let me know your city or country below.
That night, Harold came outside. You miss her already, huh? Rex didn't move. Harold shook his head. Funny thing, boy. I used to think you'd never trust again. He looked out at the empty road. Guess I was wrong. Rex whined once, and lay down with the scarf still beside him. Somewhere far off, a door slammed. Harold looked up. Something about the silence felt off. Tomorrow, he muttered. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Rex closed his eyes, but didn't sleep. Not really. Rex waited by the gate, like always. The scarf Ellie had given him was still curled near his paws, but tonight something felt different. It was past the time she usually came. The wind had picked up. Clouds rolled across the sky, heavy and dark. A few drops of rain tapped the sidewalk. Still, Rex waited. His ears stayed up, eyes locked on the corner of the street where she always appeared, but no one came. Mr. Harold stepped onto the porch and looked at the dog. "She's probably just late," he muttered, but his voice didn't sound sure. Rex paced, from the gate to the porch, then back again. He sniffed the air, let out a soft whine, and sat down, but only for a moment. Then he was up again. The rain started to fall harder. Rex didn't move. Harold called out, "Come on, boy, get out of the rain." But Rex stayed. His eyes wouldn't leave the road. Thunder cracked above. The wind pushed leaves across the sidewalk. But still, no Ellie. Rex barked, once, loud and sharp. Then he barked again, his body trembling. Harold stepped closer. "Hey, stop that. You'll wake the neighbors." But Rex didn't stop. His bark turned into a long, aching howl. It was the first time Harold had heard him howl since the day the boy, his grandson, never came home. The sound tore through the night, sad, hollow, heavy. Harold didn't say anything after that. He just watched. Rex clawed at the fence, not wildly, but as if trying to break through. "Where is she, huh?" Harold whispered. "What's gotten into you?" Rex ran back to the porch, barked at the door, then returned to the gate. Over and over. Harold followed him. His hands were shaking. "You think something happened?" he asked. Rex let out a low growl, not angry, but scared. The rain turned into a steady pour. Across the street, porch lights flicked on. A curtain moved. Someone peeked out, but no one stepped outside. Harold stood in silence. Then he said, "She said her mum didn't want her coming anymore." Rex barked again. "She's a good kid," Harold added. "Why would her mum?" He stopped. His jaw tightened. Rex paced faster now, back and forth, whining louder. Harold reached for his coat. "I'm not saying you're right, but I'm not saying you're wrong either." He opened the front door. "Come on inside before you catch your death." But Rex didn't budge. Harold sighed. "Suit yourself." He stood there a moment longer, watching the rain soak into the scarf near Rex's feet. "I don't like this." "Either, boy," he whispered. Hours passed. The neighborhood went quiet. Rex stayed by the gate, wet and shivering. His eyes never left the street. Harold peeked through the curtains at midnight. He saw the dog, still waiting, motionless. The old man mumbled, "This can't be nothing." He sat down, pulled out a photo album from the drawer, and opened to a picture of his grandson standing beside Rex. Both were younger, full of light. "They said you were too much after what happened," Harold said aloud. "But I know you. You don't bark unless it matters." He looked out the window again. "And tonight, you won't stop." The wind slammed the screen door against the house. Harold jumped. Rex didn't flinch. At 2 a.m., Harold stepped outside again. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, still out. "Here," he asked. Rex barked once, then pressed his body hard against the fence. Harold squatted next to him. "I don't know where she lives. Never asked. Never thought I'd need to." Rex growled, eyes locked down the road. Harold stood up. "I should have asked more questions." He rubbed his hands together, looked toward the street, then back. At Rex, "You want me to follow you?" Rex didn't move. "Even if I did," Harold said softly, "I wouldn't know where to start." He reached out and touched the dog's head. "I'll check around in the morning," he said. If she doesn't show up by then. His voice trailed off. Rex wind. Harold added, we'll figure it out, boy. Just hold on. The old man turned and walked inside. But he didn't sleep. Neither did Rex. All night, the German shepherd sat near the gate, still soaked, eyes burning holes into the street. Every few minutes he'd lift his head and listen, but there were no footsteps, no voice saying, "Hi, boy." No limp, no blue backpack, just the cold rain, and silence. The wind picked up again. It was close to midnight. The rain had stopped, but the air felt wrong, like something had been left open, like something was missing. Rex hadn't moved from his place at the gate. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't closed his eyes. His body was stiff. Then suddenly he stood. He took one sharp step forward and growled. Not like before, not from fear. This was different. Then came the bark. It was loud, sudden, and filled with something wild. Harold sat up in bed. What in the another bark? Rex lunged at the gate, slamming his paws against it. He growled again and again. His ears were locked toward the woods behind the houses. Harold grabbed his coat and flashlight, rushing out the front door. "Hey, Rex," he called. "Stop it, boy." But the dog didn't stop. He barked louder, howled long and deep, head tilted, toward the trees. Across the street, lights flicked on. Windows opened. A man shouted, "What's going on over there?" Harold waved his hand. "Sorry, just the dog." But Rex wouldn't stop. He scratched the gate so hard his nails screeched. Against the metal, Harold got closer. "What's gotten into you, huh?" Rex growled again, spinning in circles, then slamming himself back at the gate. Harold shined his flashlight toward the woods. Nothing, just black. "Is it a raccoon?" he asked. "A fox?" But Rex wasn't barking at animals. He was barking with urgency, like he was trying to say something. "Calm down, Rex," Harold said. "You're gonna hurt yourself." But Rex didn't listen. He barked, then howled again longer. This time it echoed across the street, through the trees, up into the wind, and then a faint sound. Harold froze. He turned off the flashlight and listened. There it was again, a cry, faint, thin, like someone calling from far away. "Did you hear that?" Harold whispered. Rex barked again and jumped at the gate. The cry came again, this time clearer, a child. Harold's heart dropped. No, he looked toward the trees. That can't be. Rex howled once more, pawing at the gate like a mad dog. "You think that's her?" Harold asked. Rex barked twice. "I don't believe it," Harold said, backing up. "How could she even get out there?" Rex growled low and steady. Harold grabbed the gate key from the hook inside the porch. His hands trembled. "You better not be wrong," he muttered. He unlocked the gate. Rex shot forward like a bullet, straight down the side yard, through the bushes, and toward the woods. "Rex!" Harold shouted, running after him. "Slow down." But Rex didn't slow. He moved like he'd been waiting for this moment, like he knew exactly where to go. Branches snapped. Mud clung to Harold's boots. The flashlight beam shook in his hand. "Ellie." He called. "Ellie, are you out there?" Nothing. Then Rex barked again. Harold turned toward the sound and ran. His breath was short. His knees ached. He found Rex standing at the edge of a creek. The dog was whining, ears forward, tail stiff. Harold raised the light. "What is it?" Rex looked back at him, then forward again. The wind blew hard, then through. The The trees, a soft, shaky cry. Help! Harold's stomach flipped. Ellie, he yelled, is that you? The voice didn't answer, but Rex barked and darted to the left. Through thick trees, Harold followed, stumbling, using the flashlight to guide each step. Don't lose him, he whispered. Don't you dare lose him. Then he saw it. A piece of blue fabric snagged on a branch. Ellie's backpack. Harold picked it up. Oh no, Rex barked again. Louder now. Harold pushed through the brush, and there beneath a fallen log was Ellie. Her legs were muddy, one ankle twisted, her face pale. She looked up, eyes barely open. Rex, she whispered. Harold dropped to his knees. Ellie, stay with me. She shivered. I was hiding. I fell. Rex crawled beside her, licking her hand gently. You found her, Harold said, shaking his head. You actually found her. Ellie closed her eyes. He heard me. Harold pulled off his coat and wrapped it around her. I need to get you out of here, he said. Hold on. He looked at Rex. Stay close, boy. Keep her warm. Rex didn't move from her side. He lay down beside her, body pressed close. Harold pulled out his phone. No signal. I'll have to carry her, he muttered. He knelt beside her. Ellie, I'm going to pick you up now, okay? She nodded weakly. Please, don't leave Rex. I won't, Harold promised. We're taking him too. He lifted her slowly. She whimpered, but didn't cry. Rex walked beside them the whole way back. By the time they reached the street, neighbors were outside. Lights were on. Someone gasped. Is that the missing girl? Harold shouted. Call an ambulance. Another neighbor pointed. And the dog, he brought her back. Harold looked down at Rex and nodded. He did more than that, he said. He saved her life. Rex stood still, eyes on Ellie, never blinking once. By sunrise, the rain had stopped, but everything felt heavier. Harold stood on the porch, sipping black coffee with shaky hands. Rex sat by the gate, soaked but alert. He hadn't slept, not even a blink. His eyes were still locked toward the trees. Harold sighed. I know, boy. I know she didn't come back. Rex whined, low and sharp. He sniffed the air, then paced, nose to the ground. Harold stepped down the porch steps. All right, let's see what you're sniffing. They walked together along the back fence line. The grass was soaked. The ground was soft and muddy. Then Harold froze. There, near the edge of the wood's tiny footprints. He bent down, tracing one with a finger. These are fresh. Beside them, half buried in the mud, was a child's sock. Blue, torn. Harold's voice cracked. Ellie. Rex barked once, sharp and loud. The sound startled a neighbor, who was already stepping out of her house. Everything. All right, Mr. Harold. He held up the sock. You seen the girl with the backpack? You mean Ellie? She asked, eyes wide. She didn't come home last night. I thought maybe she left town. Harold's heart dropped. She's just a kid. The woman looked toward the trees. Should we call someone? Harold was already dialing. Yeah, call the police. Now. Minutes later, 2 officers arrived. One knelt beside the prince. Definitely a child's, he said. Looks like she walked toward the woods. Harold stepped forward. She wouldn't just run into the woods alone. Something scared her, or chased her. The other officer looked up. You know the girl. She's been coming here every day, Harold said. She talks to my dog. Rex barked again. The first officer raised a brow. Is he always like this? Harold shook his head. No, only when it matters. The officers exchanged a look. One leaned into his radio. We need a search team. Child may be in the woods, possibly injured. Rex growled and took off toward the trees. Rex. Harold shouted, "Stop." But Rex didn't stop. The leash hung in Harold's hand. For a moment he just stood there, frozen. Then he whispered, "Hold on, kid," and ran after him. Rex darted. Through thick brush, his nose low, tail stiff. Harold followed, branches scratching his face, his breath short. "You better not lose me," he yelled. Rex barked again, sharp and quick. He waited just ahead, then pushed forward. The mud was deeper here. Harold slipped once, catching himself against a tree. He looked down and saw more tracks. A handprint, small. She was crawling. He muttered, "She's hurt." Rex barked again, "I'm coming." Harold yelled. The dog disappeared over a small hill. Harold forced his legs to move. His knees ached. His back screamed, but he kept going, because somewhere out there, a little girl was alone. Rex stopped suddenly near a fallen log. He sniffed the ground, then barked twice. Harold caught up, panting. "You find something." Rex began to dig. Harold moved beside him and pulled away the loose dirt. Another piece of fabric, a strip of Ellie's shirt. Harold looked around. "Ellie, can you hear me?" Silence. Then a rustle. Rex snapped his head to the left. A faint sound. "Did you hear that?" Harold asked. Rex whined and ran toward it. Harold followed, slipping again, grabbing at trees. They came to a shallow ditch. On the far side, more footprints. "She's close," Harold whispered. Then a voice, weak, barely there. "Rex." It was her. Harold's eyes filled with tears. "We're here, Ellie. We're coming." Rex charged forward, barking loudly now, tail up, ears locked. Harold scrambled down the ditch, gripping roots. Sliding in mud. Ellie was slumped against a fallen branch. Her foot was twisted, her face pale, but she was breathing. Rex lay beside her, licking her hand. Ellie looked up at Harold. "He found me." Harold knelt beside her. "You're okay now. We've got you." She winced. "It hurts." "I know," he said softly. "Help's on the way." Rex stayed close, guarding her like a soldier. Harold looked at the dog, his voice cracking. "You knew," he whispered. "You knew exactly where she'd be." Rex didn't move. His eyes never left. The girl, from behind them, voices shouted. "Over here," Harold called. "We've got her." Rex let out one quiet bark, then rested his head on Ellie's lap. The rescue team was still behind them, their voices echoing faintly through the woods. But Rex didn't wait. He pulled ahead, nose to the ground, tail stiff, eyes locked forward. Harold tried to keep up, mud dragging at his boots. His lungs burned. "Slow down, Rex. Let me catch my breath." Rex didn't listen. He weaved between trees, sniffing, pausing, then darting forward again. His ears twitched at every sound. Then he stopped, dead still. Harold froze. "What is it, boy?" Rex stepped toward a low-hanging branch. Caught in it was a piece of blue fabric, soaked and torn. Harold reached out, fingers trembling. "Her sweater," he whispered. Rex growled low, deep in his chest. Harold spun around. "Ellie, Ellie, can you hear me?" No answer, just wind. Rex suddenly bolted left, deeper into the woods. "Wait," Harold yelled. "Don't lose me again." He pushed through thorny brush, branches snapping against his arms. He spotted Rex circling something. A fallen log, thick and hollow underneath. The dog barked once. Then again, Harold rushed over, eyes wide. "You smell her, don't you?" Rex growled and scratched at the side of the log, then backed up and barked again. Harold dropped to his knees and shined the flashlight inside the log. Nothing, just darkness. "Ellie," he called, "are you in there?" Silence. Rex wind, pawing the ground, then dash, so faint Harold almost missed. It came a tiny muffled sound, a cry. He leaned closer. "Ellie, it's me, Harold, I'm here." Another cry, weak, like someone trying to speak but too tired. Harold crawled to the far end of the log and looked again. There she was, half buried in leaves and dirt, curled up, her face pale. "She's here." Harold yelled over his shoulder. "We found her." Rex barked once, then lay down beside the log, nose pressed against the wood. "Hang on, Ellie," Harold said, voice shaking. "We're gonna get you out." She blinked slowly. "Rex," she whispered. "I know," he said. He never stopped looking. Harold reached in, grabbed her hand gently. "Can you move at all?" She shook her head. "My leg, hurts bad." "It's all right," he said softly. "You're not alone anymore." Rex stayed completely still, watching her like a guardian. Harold shouted toward the trees, "We need help." "We found her." Still no response. "All right," Harold muttered. "We do this ourselves." He took off his jacket and laid it out. "Ellie, I'm gonna pull you out slowly. Just breathe, okay?" She nodded, wincing. As Harold carefully pulled her free. Rex whined softly. His body stayed close, pressed to the ground. "Almost there," Harold said, lifting her gently onto the coat. "You're doing good, kiddo." Ellie winced again, but didn't cry. "I heard Rex last night, his howl." "That's what brought me out here," Harold replied. He wouldn't give up. Once she was out, Rex moved in, licking her hand. She smiled weakly. "Good boy." Harold wrapped the coat around her and sat beside them. "We're staying here till help comes," he said. Rex sat upright, ears twitching, eyes on the trees, then a voice in the distance. "Harold, can you hear us?" He stood and shouted, "Over here, hurry." Rex barked, loud and sharp. Within minutes, 2 officers and a paramedic appeared. One knelt by Ellie. "She's freezing. We need to move her fast. She's got a leg injury." Harold said, "Be careful." As they worked, Rex refused to move away. "Whose dog is this?" One medic asked. Harold replied, "The one who found her." Ellie spoke up, barely above a whisper. "He saved me." The team loaded her onto a stretcher, carefully wrapping her in blankets. Rex walked beside her, step for step. "You want him with you?" Harold asked. Ellie nodded. "Please, don't let them take him away." "I won't," Harold promised. "You have my word." The group made their way back toward the edge of the woods. Rex stayed close the whole time, not letting her out of his sight, and Ellie didn't stop smiling, even through the pain, even through the cold, because her best friend, the dog behind the fence, had come for her. The group moved slowly through the woods, Ellie on the stretcher, wrapped in blankets, her face pale. Rex trotted beside her, eyes fixed, ears forward, refusing to leave her side. Harold walked close, hands trembling, trying to keep his voice steady. "You're all right now," he told her. "We've got you." Ellie gave a faint nod. "Thank you for coming." One of the officers glanced at Harold. We found the path from here. It'll take us back quicker. Harold nodded, but his eyes stayed on Ellie. The medics carefully lowered the stretcher near the clearing and checked her pulse. One of them whispered, "She's cold, but stable. That leg looks swollen though. She must have run away," the other officer murmured. "Poor kid." Rex let out a soft growl, then stepped closer to Ellie, licking her cheek gently. Her eyes fluttered open. "You found me." Harold knelt beside her, his face lined with emotion. Rex didn't stop until he did. She reached up weakly and placed her hand on Rex's head. "I knew he'd come." Rex pressed his head against her hand, tail barely wagging. The medic gave her some water. "Try to sip this, sweetheart." Ellie took a tiny sip, then winced. "My leg, it hurts bad." "I know," Harold said. "We'll get you to the hospital soon." As they adjusted the stretcher, Harold stood and pulled one of the officers aside. "She didn't just get lost out here." The officer raised an eyebrow. "You think someone hurt her?" "I don't know yet," Harold said quietly, "but Rex does. That dog wouldn't have howled like that unless something was really wrong." "Dogs don't lie," the officer replied. Rex barked once, as if agreeing. They began moving again. Ellie's hand slipped off the blanket, and Rex nudged it back up with his nose. She whispered, "He never left me." "No," Harold said. "He didn't." They came to a narrow slope. The medic at the front slipped slightly, and the stretcher tilted. "Careful." Harold shouted. Ellie cried out in pain. Rex growled and ran ahead, pacing around them in circles. The team steadied the stretcher. "Sorry, mud's thicker here. Can't we rest a second?" Harold asked. "She's shaking." The medic nodded. "All right, 5 minutes." They set the stretcher down carefully. Harold crouched next to Ellie again. "Why'd you come?" "Out here," Kid Ellie's eyes welled up. "I didn't mean to run that far. I was scared." "Of what?" he asked. She hesitated. "Ellie," he said gently, "you can tell me." Her voice cracked. "My mum's boyfriend came home, drunk again. I tried to hide. He found me, said I wasn't going anywhere this time." Harold clenched his jaw. "So I ran," she whispered. "I just kept running." "You're safe now," he said. Rex licked her cheek again. She closed her eyes. "He's the only one who ever listened," she said. "Everyone else told me to be quiet, but not Rex." One of the officers stepped closer. "Did he hurt you, Ellie?" She didn't answer, just looked away. "That's enough for now," Harold said firmly. "Let's get her out." They lifted the stretcher again and started toward the road. Rex stayed at Ellie's side, eyes locked on her every movement. When the ambulance lights finally came into view, Harold exhaled deeply. "We made it," he said. A medic from the ambulance rushed over. "She's freezing. We need to warm her fast." Ellie's hand reached out. "Wait, Rex." Harold turned. "I'll stay with him. He's not going anywhere." She smiled weakly. "Promise." "I promise," he said as they loaded her in. Rex barked once. A quiet goodbye. Harold placed his hand on Rex's back. "You did it, boy." Rex didn't move. He just stared at the ambulance doors, waiting, watching, because for him it wasn't over. Not until she came back. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines and the occasional hum of footsteps outside. Ellie lay in the bed, her leg in a cast, her eyes tired but alert. Rex sat on the floor beside her, his body still, his head close to the bed. He hadn't left her side once since they brought her in. Harold sat in the corner, arms crossed. They said she'd be all right, he whispered to Rex. Physically, anyway. A nurse entered with a clipboard and smiled gently. How's our brave girl doing today? Ellie didn't answer. She just looked at the wall. The nurse checked her then gently pulled back the sleeve of Ellie's hospital gown. Her face changed. Sweetheart, she said softly, did you fall more than once? Harold stood. What is it? The nurse didn't answer. She carefully rolled up the other sleeve. More bruises. Faded ones. Round. Old. I'll get the doctor, she said quickly. Rex stood up, sensing the shift in mood. Harold moved closer to the bed. Ellie, where did those come from? Ellie stayed silent. Her fingers clutched the edge of the blanket. A few minutes later, 2 women in dark cardigans entered. One introduced herself. Hi, Ellie. I'm Marla. This is Denise. We're from Child Services. Ellie turned her face away. Marla knelt beside her. We noticed some bruises. They don't look recent. Can you tell us where they came from? Ellie shook her head. Did someone hurt you? Denise asked gently. Ellie blinked. Fast then, the door opened. A tall man stepped in, thick arms, dark eyes. Ellie flinched. Rex stood up and growled. The man froze. That dog better back off, he said. No, Ellie whispered. Don't let him come closer. Rex took a step forward, his growl deepening. The nurse returned quickly. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to wait outside. I'm her stepfather, he said. I have a right to see her. Harold stood between him and the bed. Not anymore, you don't. The man looked down at Rex, who was now baring his teeth. That dog's dangerous. The nurse spoke firmly. He hasn't hurt anyone, but he seems to know something. Ellie, Marla said, her voice soft. Has he hurt you before? Ellie didn't answer, but she didn't have to. Rex didn't. Stop growling. The stepfather stepped back. This is ridiculous. Harold crossed his arms. You should leave. Security arrived minutes later. The man didn't argue. He just left, muttering under his breath. As the door closed, Rex relaxed. Slightly, he returned to Ellie's side, sitting close. Marla looked at the nurse. That dog just told us everything we needed to know. The nurse nodded. Sometimes dogs see what people miss. Harold sat down again, exhaling slowly. Ellie finally spoke. He never liked Rex, said dogs were stupid, that they couldn't protect anyone. Rex leaned his head onto the bed. Ellie touched his ear gently. But he was wrong, she whispered. Rex knew. He always knew. Harold's voice cracked. You're safe now, Ellie, I promise. For the first time since she'd arrived. Ellie smiled. Rex stayed exactly where he was. Watching, guarding, waiting. The hospital room felt cold that morning. Not because of the air, but because of the silence. Ellie sat up in bed, holding Rex's scarf in her lap. A nurse walked in with a folded paper and a look no one liked. Ellie, she said gently, your mum's here. Ellie's face dropped. I don't want to go back. Harold stood near the window, arms crossed. You heard what she said? The nurse lowered her voice. The social worker said there's no proof. Not yet. The bruises aren't enough without a statement. She's scared, Harold argued. That's why she's quiet. We know, the nurse said, but the system needs more. Outside, Rex sat beside the hospital door. His eyes never blinked. When Ellie was wheeled out, he stood. His tail didn't wag. He just stared. "Can he come?" Ellie asked softly. The nurse shook her head. "He's not registered to you, sweetie. He has to go home." Ellie tried to hug him, but they barely let her touch his fur. Rex let out a small, low whine. Then she was gone. That evening, Rex was back in Harold's yard. The gate was locked. The same tall bars, the same cold floor. Harold poured food in the bowl, but Rex didn't move. He just stared at the street, as if waiting. "You miss her," Harold whispered. "I know," but Rex didn't blink. When night came, something changed. Rex began pacing, then scratching. Harold watched from the porch. "What are you doing?" The dog clawed at the bars harder, over and over. The sound echoed through the yard. "Stop it," Harold said, stepping closer. "You'll hurt yourself." Rex didn't stop. His paw pads turned red. The metal scraped his claws. He scratched like the world was falling apart. Harold rushed forward. "Rex," blood smeared the bars. "What's wrong with you?" Harold whispered. The dog backed up, shaking. He growled quiet and panicked. Harold stared at him. Something ain't right. Rex whined, sat, then stood again. He looked toward the street, then the sky, then back at Harold. "You trying to tell me something?" Rex barked once. Short, urgent. Harold's chest tightened. He hadn't seen Rex like this since ... double quotes. "I know that bark," he muttered. "You're scared." Rex began pacing again, circling the cage, bumping into the bars. Harold unlocked the gate and stepped inside. "Talk to me, boy. What is it?" Rex pressed his nose into Harold's hand, then turned and stared toward the road. "You want to go?" To her, Rex barked again. Harold stood there, silent, heart pounding. Then he whispered, "You think she's in trouble again, don't you?" Rex whined and nudged the fence with his shoulder. "She's just a kid, and they sent her back to that man." Harold looked down at his hands. They were shaking. "I should have said more. Should have fought harder." He looked at Rex. "I let her go." Rex stepped forward, pressing his head against Harold's chest. "I hear you," Harold said. "I hear you loud and clear." That night, the cage stayed open, but Rex didn't run. He lay near the gate, body tense, eyes wide open, waiting, watching, listening for a cry. It started just before dawn. The sky was still dark, the streets empty, but Rex was wide awake. He hadn't moved from the gate all night. Then, without warning, he stood up. His ears twitched. He sniffed the wind. A sound, distant, faint. He let out one soft bark. Then another dot. Harold, half asleep on the porch, stirred. "Rex." But before he could stand, Rex took off. He didn't wait for the gate to open. He charged the side fence, clawed up, and launched himself over. Harold jumped to his feet. "Hey, Rex." But the dog was gone. Down the road, across empty sidewalks. Rex ran, fast, determined, like something inside him snapped. A neighbor, out for a smoke, saw him flash by. What the Rex didn't slow. He turned down a street Harold had never taken him to. Then he stopped, in front of a small grey house. He barked once. Loud, no lights inside. No movement. Rex barked again. Then again sharper, harder. He jumped on the door, scratched the wood inside. Silence. Then a faint sound. A cry. A baby. Rex froze. He leaned into the door. He growled low, then barked again, desperate, from an upstairs window. A curtain moved. Down the street, someone opened their front door. "What's that dog doing?" Rex barked louder. Inside the house, the crying grew louder. Rex spun in circles, then jumped onto the window ledge. He scratched the glass, barking non-stop. Inside, still no adult voice, no footsteps, just the baby's cry. The front door creaked. Open. Rex lunged forward and pushed through. A woman across the street gasped. "Did that dog just inside?" Rex followed the sound, up the stairs, into a back room. There, in a crib, was a baby. Face red, hands waving. Alone. Rex, wind, nudged the crib. The baby's cries softened, but the room was cold. The air smelled sharp like smoke. Downstairs, something flickered. Rex turned. Smoke drifted from the kitchen. The stove glowed red. A dish towel had caught fire. Rex growled, then ran down. Barking again, he tried to pour the towel away, but it was too late. Flames began to spread. Rex ran back upstairs. He barked at the crib. Louder now, the baby wailed. Rex stepped up, grabbed the blanket in his teeth, and gently pulled. The baby slid closer. Rex tried again, slower. Careful, he pulled until the baby was near the edge. Then he gently took the blanket again and dragged it across the floor. Smoke filled the hallway. Rex barked, dragged, barked again. Outside, a neighbor ran up. "Fire! Someone call 911. Another shouted, "There's a dog in there." Inside, Rex reached the bottom of the stairs. The fire was spreading fast. He turned, pulling the baby toward the open front door. The moment he stepped out, people gasped. "There's a baby." He pulled her out. Someone grabbed a phone. The dog saved the baby. Rex laid the baby down on the grass, gently licking her forehead. Then he sat beside her, chest rising fast, smoke still on his fur. Sirens howled in the distance. A woman rushed forward. "That's Ellie's house." Another said, "Where is she?" Rex lowered his head. Harold arrived moments later, breathless. He saw Rex, saw the baby. He dropped to his knees. "You did it, boy." The crowd fell silent, and Rex, still trembling, watched. The baby breathed, safe, alive. He had heard her cry, and answered the moment Rex stepped onto the porch with the baby in his mouth. Gasps echoed from the crowd. But no one knew what had just happened inside. This is how it started, before anyone could reach the burning house. Rex had already broken through the side window. The glass cut into his shoulder, but he didn't stop. Smoke curled through the hallway. He barked once, loud and sharp, trying to call for someone. Nothing, no answer, just silence. And then a cry, high-pitched, desperate. The baby. Rex followed the sound. Paws sliding on the hardwood floor. The smoke was thicker now. The kitchen glowed orange behind him. Something had fallen off the stove, but Rex didn't turn back. He ran toward the nursery. The door was cracked open. The cry was louder. Inside the room, smoke hung like a cloud. The crib stood in the middle. The baby's face was red, eyes wide with fear. Rex ran forward and barked. The baby kicked its legs. Rex wind, then climbed halfway into the crib. Grabbing the edge of the blanket with his teeth, he pulled. The baby slid toward him. Rex backed up. Pulling again, the baby rolled toward the railing. He grabbed another corner of the blanket and tugged. Careful, steady. When the baby was close enough, Rex gently clamped his teeth onto the fabric and lifted. The baby cried louder now, but Rex didn't let go. He stepped back, dragging the bundle toward the door. A spark popped behind him. Smoke curled deeper into the room. He moved faster, through the hallway. Down the stairs. Flames were climbing the kitchen walls now. The living room glowed red. Rex darted toward the front door, but it was shut tight. He growled and spun back around. The way he came, the window. He raced to the side hallway, dragging the baby with him. The smoke made it hard to see, but the window was still open. He leaped through it, glass crunching under his paws. The baby landed gently on the grass, still wrapped in the blanket. Rex stepped over the child, licking its face. Voice from across the street shouted. He brought the baby out. Sirens screamed in the distance. A woman knelt down, grabbing the baby. "It's okay, little one. You're safe now." Rex backed up. Coughing, Harold arrived seconds later, eyes wide. Rex. He saw the baby. He saw the smoke pouring out of the house, and he saw the blood on Rex's leg. "You went in there," Harold whispered. "You saved him." Rex sat down beside the baby, chest heaving, tail still. Harold knelt beside him. "You knew," he said. "You heard the cry, and you knew." Rex looked up at him, then back at the baby. Firefighters rushed toward the house. People gathered, whispering, pointing. That dog just saved a life. Wasn't he the one people said was dangerous? Not anymore. Harold placed his hand gently on Rex's back. "You're not just a dog," he whispered. "You're her protector." Rex blinked slowly, then rested his head on the grass. He had done what no one else could. He had heard the cry and answered it. Flames cracked behind him. Smoke curled higher into the sky. Rex stood over the baby, his chest rising and falling fast. His side bled from the broken window, but he didn't move. Not until he was sure the baby was breathing. Sirens wailed louder now. A fire truck screeched to a stop down the block. "Clear the area." A firefighter shouted, jumping down, but the crowd didn't move. They just stared, because right there, in the middle of the lawn, stood the dog everyone once called dangerous, and in his mouth was a baby's blanket. One firefighter froze. "Is that the same dog we got complaints about last year?" Another stepped forward. "It can't be. That dog's a hero." Rex slowly placed the baby on the grass, licking his forehead with care. The baby whimpered, but didn't cry. Across the street, a man held up his phone. "I got it on video." He dragged the baby out of the house himself. A woman added, "I saw him jump through the window." More people gathered. "That's Ellie. Little brother, isn't it?" someone whispered. A medic rushed forward, scooping up the baby and checking his pulse. Breathing, slight burn on the leg, but alive. Another medic knelt beside Rex. "Dog's bleeding. We need to patch him up." Harold pushed through the crowd. "Let me through." When he saw Rex, his face went pale. "You really did it, boy." He knelt down beside him. "You went into the fire. You saved her brother." Rex wagged his tail just once. A firefighter stepped closer. "He's yours." Harold nodded slowly. Yeah, he's mine." "He's incredible," the man said. "Never seen anything like it." One of the neighbors shook her head. They said he was dangerous, that he bit a kid once. Harold looked up. "He didn't bite anyone. He protected my grandson." But people didn't understand. Another voice spoke from the crowd. "He understood more than we did." Reporters started arriving. Cameras. Microphones. "Is this the dog that saved the child? Was anyone else in the house? What's his name?" Harold stood. His name is Rex. Someone asked, and the girl Lee, where is she? She's in the hospital, Harold answered, but she's safe, thanks to him. Rex laid his head down, exhausted. A young firefighter knelt beside him. We should get him looked at. That cuts deep. No, Harold said quickly. Not without me. I'm going with him. The firefighter nodded. Fair enough. Baby was loaded into the ambulance. He cried softly now, wrapped tight in a warm blanket. Rex lifted his head to watch. Harold whispered, "He's okay, boy. You did it." The medic touched Harold's shoulder. "We can clean Rex up in the back. He'll be all right." As Harold helped lift him, Rex didn't struggle. He just kept his eyes on the baby. The doors shut. The sirens started, and for the first time in hours, Rex closed his eyes. He had nothing left to give, but he'd given everything that mattered. Ellie sat in a hospital room again. Same white walls, same quiet hum. But this time, she wasn't the one hurt. It was her baby brother who lay in the crib beside her, wrapped up, safe breathing, a small bandage on his leg. She hadn't cried. Since the fire, not even when they told her Rex had gotten hurt. Harold stood near the window, arms folded. He hadn't said much either. He just stayed with her. Then the door opened. A social worker walked in, followed by a police officer, Ellie. The woman said softly, "We need to ask you a few questions. Just talk to us. We want to help." Ellie stared at her hands. The officer sat down. "We know Rex saved your brother. We know he ran through fire to do it. But we need to know why you ran away in the first place. Why you were in the woods." Ellie stayed silent. Harold walked over and sat beside her. "You don't have to be scared anymore. Not now." She looked up slowly. Her eyes were tired, but steady. "I ran," she said, her voice low, "because he said he was going to hurt the baby." The room went still. The social worker leaned forward. "Who, Ellie?" "My mum's boyfriend," she whispered. "He came home drunk that night. I heard him yelling. He grabbed my arm, said the baby cried too much, said he was going to make it stop." Harold clenched his jaw. "I waited until he passed out," she continued. "Then I grabbed my brother and ran." The officer asked gently, "How far did you get?" "I tried to get to Harold's," Ellie said, "but I tripped, dropped him. He wasn't moving. I panicked. I laid him down by a tree and ran for help, but I got lost. It got dark. I couldn't go back." Tears welled in her eyes now. "I didn't know Rex would find him. I didn't know he'd hear the cry." The social worker nodded slowly. "Why didn't you say anything before?" Ellie looked down. "No one ever believed me." Harold spoke. "Up. We believe you now." The door creaked open again. A nurse peeked in. "There's someone who wants to see her." Ellie's eyes widened. "Rex," the nurse smiled. "Just had his leg cleaned up. Still limping, but he's wagging his tail like crazy." Ellie slid off the bed and stood by the door. "Can I?" "Go ahead," the officer said. She walked out slowly, barefoot, heart racing, and there he was. Rex stood in the hallway, bandaged leg, tail thumping. "Rex," she whispered. He whined, then limped toward her, pressing his head into her chest. She dropped to her knees. "You saved him," she whispered. "You saved both of us." Rex licked her cheek. The officer and social worker watched from the doorway. "He never barked for no reason," Harold said softly. "That dog knew all along." Ellie wrapped her arms around Rex's neck. "I'm not scared anymore," she said, "because I have you. And for the first time in a long time, she meant it. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, neighbors, even strangers filled the benches. But it was quiet, too quiet. Ellie sat beside her social worker. Her little brother was asleep in a stroller. Behind her, Rex wasn't allowed inside, but Harold sat in the front row. A leash still wrapped around his hand like he couldn't let go. The judge entered. The bailiff called the room to order. Then it began. The prosecutor stood first. "We're here today to determine whether the accused, Mr. Donald Price, is fit to remain the legal guardian of Ellie Carter and her infant brother." Ellie looked down at her shoes. Her hands shook. The defense attorney leaned in. "My client claims he's being unfairly judged. No charges have ever been filed against him. There's no proof of abuse." The prosecutor cleared her throat. "Actually, there is." She clicked a remote. A screen lit up. "This footage was taken from a security camera owned by Mr. Harold Bennett," she explained. "The camera was installed to monitor his dog, Rex." The screen flickered. Then the footage played. It was dark, night vision, but clear enough. A mandanal crept into Harold's yard. He crouched low, checking over his shoulder, then walked toward the gate. Inside the kennel, Rex stood. He didn't bark at first. He just stared, ears high. Still, Donald reached for the latch, and that's when Rex growled. Not loud, but long, deep, cold. Donald jumped back, then leaned forward again. Rex lunged at the bars. The court jumped on the screen. Donald cursed, backed away, and vanished into the night. The footage ended. Silence filled the room. The judge leaned forward. "Do we know the date and time of that recording?" The prosecutor replied, "Yes. It was the night before Ellie disappeared into the woods." A murmur rolled through the room. Ellie looked up. Her eyes met Harold's. The defense attorney stood. "This doesn't prove intent. It doesn't prove he harmed anyone." The prosecutor replied calmly, "Then we'll let the other evidence speak." She handed over medical reports, photos of Ellie's bruises, the fire investigation, and the statement. Ellie's voice played through the speakers. He was going to hurt the baby. The courtroom went quiet again. Then Harold stood. "May I say something?" The judge nodded. Harold walked to the front. "People said Rex was dangerous, that he couldn't be trusted. But every time he growled, it was to protect someone. He growled at Donald for a reason. And that night, he tried to warn me. I didn't listen. He turned to Ellie, but she did, and she ran, because that dog gave her the courage to leave." Ellie smiled through tears. The judge tapped his gavel. Lightly, "Thank you, Mr. Bennett." Later that afternoon, the judge returned with the ruling. Based on the evidence presented, custody of both children will be removed from Mr. Price. Full guardianship will be transferred to Child Protective Services while a permanent home is found. Gasps echoed. Donald's face turned red. Ellie clutched her brother tight. Harold stood slowly, gripping Rex's leash, and though Rex couldn't be in the room to hear it, justice had finally barked back. The front page headline read, "Dangerous Dog Saves Baby from House Fire." Harold stared at it, then shook his head, still calling him dangerous. Rex lay beside his chair on the porch, his leg wrapped, eyes closed, tail flicking every so often. He was tired, but peaceful. Reporters had come by earlier. Cameras flashed. People wanted pictures with the dog they once feared. "Mind if we ask a few questions?" One had said. Harold's response was sharp. "You had your stories when you wanted to scare folks. You'll get nothing new from me. The news vans left, but the whispers didn't. He bit a kid, didn't he? No, that was never proven. Well, he sure ain't dangerous now. Rex didn't care. He just listened. Inside, Harold poured himself some coffee and opened the mail. A letter from Child Services sat at the top. He unfolded it slowly. Final placement, he read aloud. Ellie and her baby brother have been permanently removed from their previous home. Custody to remain in care until adoption or placement. He paused. Or foster. Later that day, Ellie visited. She held her baby brother in one arm and a stuffed toy in the other. Rex lifted his head the moment she stepped onto the porch. Hi. Boy, she smiled. Miss me? Rex stood, limped over, and gently pressed his head against her knee. Harold came out behind them. You're early. Ellie sat down beside him. I didn't want to wait. Harold looked at her closely. You holding up all right? She nodded. They said we'll stay in a new home soon. Maybe a family who likes dogs. Harold tilted his head. You'd want Rex to come. I don't want to go anywhere without him, she said. He's all I had when no one believed me. The baby let out a tiny squeal, and Rex turned, watching him with soft eyes. He's still guarding him, Harold said. Like he knows it's not over. Ellie leaned her head against Harold's shoulder. He was never dangerous. Harold chuckled quietly. No, but people don't always look close enough. There was a pause. Then Ellie whispered, You think they'd let us stay with you? Harold blinked. I mean, she continued, you already have Rex. You know me. And you care. Harold didn't speak for a moment. Then he nodded. If you'd want that, I'd make the call. Ellie smiled. Rex barked once, softly, as if approving. By sunset, Harold had made the call. Paperwork would follow. Meetings would come, but something had shifted. The man they once called dangerous was now their hero. He had never changed. People just hadn't seen it yet. The car ride was quiet. Ellie sat in the back seat, holding her baby brother close, while Rex rested his head on her knee. His ears twitched every time the baby cooed. Harold drove slow, glancing in the mirror. You nervous? Ellie nodded. Little, you'll be all right, Harold said. It's a good place. Quiet. Big yard. Ellie looked at Rex. Do they know about him? Harold smiled. They do now. They pulled up to a white house with a blue porch swing. A woman stood outside, waving. She had kind eyes. That's Mrs. Carter, Harold said. She used to be a vet. Loves animals. The door opened and a tall man stepped out. And that's her husband. Retired teacher. Spends most of his time gardening. Ellie took a deep breath. Do you think? They'll let Rex stay in my room. Harold parked the car and turned. Only one way to find out. They stepped out together. Rex stayed close to Ellie's side, tail wagging low, eyes scanning the yard. Mrs. Carter came down the steps. You must be Ellie, and this handsome boy must be Rex. Ellie nodded. He saved us, I heard, she said. That's why we wanted to meet you both. Mr. Carter walked over and gave the baby a gentle smile. He's a calm one. He trusts Rex, Ellie said. So do I. They all went inside. The house smelled like cookies and something warm. The living room had a basket of toys and a shelf full of books. Mrs. Carter leaned down. Would you like to see your room? Ellie looked at Harold. He nodded. Go on, he said. I'll bring your things. Ellie climbed the stairs with Rex at her heels. Her room had yellow curtains and a soft rug. There was a small bed and a crib in the corner. She turned to Mrs. Carter. "Can he sleep in here with me?" "Of course," she smiled. "Wherever he's comfortable." Ellie dropped to the floor and hugged Rex. "We made it," she whispered. "No more cages, no more yelling." Rex licked her cheek and wagged his tail. That night, after dinner and warm milk, Ellie tucked her brother into the crib and curled up under the blankets. Rex circled once beside her bed, then lay down, resting his head on his paws. Mrs. Carter peeked in. "Everything okay?" Ellie nodded. "He's staying right here." "Good," she said softly. "He belongs with you." As the lights dimmed, Ellie reached out and touched Rex's fur. "I'm not scared anymore," she whispered. "Not with you here." Rex closed his eyes, tail thumping once against the floor. They were safe, together, and for the first time in a long time, that was enough. The days slowly turned into weeks, and the weeks rolled into quiet months. No sirens, no yelling, just peace. Ellie started to laugh again. It wasn't loud, not at first, but it was real. Her baby brother grew stronger too. He could sit now, wave his tiny hands, and giggle every time Rex walked past him. Rex stayed close to both of them, always watching, always calm. Harold still visited once a week. He'd bring biscuits for Rex and books for Ellie. Getting taller every time, he'd say, "You sure you're not growing twice as fast, just to make me feel?" Old Ellie would giggle and shake her head. "Only a little." One afternoon, Mrs. Carter handed Ellie a folded paper. "It's from the judge," she said gently. "You should read it." Ellie opened it slowly. Her hands trembled just a little. The words hit like sunshine. Permanent guardianship approved. She looked up. "Does this mean I can stay?" Mrs. Carter smiled. "It means this is your home now, for good." Ellie turned to Rex, who had been lying near the couch, chewing gently on a rope toy. She dropped to her knees. "Did you hear that, Rex? We're not leaving. Not anymore." Rex barked once, soft and warm. That night, they all sat outside on the porch. The sky was full of stars, the air cool and still. Ellie rocked her brother gently while Rex lay at her feet. Mr. Carter came out with 2 mugs of cocoa. "Can dogs have hot chocolate?" Ellie grinned. "Just the marshmallows." He laughed and handed her the cup. They sat together in silence. Then Ellie leaned forward, wrapped her arms around Rex's neck, and pressed her face into his fur. "Thank you for finding me," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." Rex didn't move. He just closed his eyes, calm, like he already knew. Later that night, Ellie tucked the baby into his crib, then crawled under her own blanket. Rex lay beside. The bed, like always. Before switching off the lamp, Ellie looked down. "I'm not scared anymore." Rex opened one eye and wagged his tail once. That was all she needed. Healing doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it's found in quiet nights, steady pause, and the warmth of something that never gives up on you. And Rexy had never stopped watching, never stopped loving, even when no one else saw her. He did it, had been almost a year. A warm spring morning brought Harold up the same old path, slower now, leaning on a cane. His steps were stiff, but his smile was steady. In his free hand, he held something worn, Rex's old leather collar. Ellie opened the door before he even knocked. "I saw you from the window," Harold chuckled. Guess I'm not sneaky like I used to be. Behind her, Rex barked once and trotted over, tail wagging. Well now, Harold said, kneeling slowly. Still remember me, huh? Rex licked his hand, then leaned into his chest. Ellie stepped aside. Come sit. He's been waiting for you. Harold walked in and looked around. Place feels like a real home now. It is, she said quietly. The baby, now almost walking, waddled toward Rex with a stuffed bunny. Rex took it gently in his mouth, then dropped it at the boy's feet. Still gentle, Harold smiled. Always was. They sat on the porch. Just like old times. Ellie brought Harold some lemonade, then noticed the collar. Is that his? Harold nodded. Found it in my old drawer. Thought he should have it back. She held it in her hands, rubbing her thumb over the worn name tag. Rex. Harold leaned back. You know, when I first got him, I built a fence because I was scared of what he might do. Ellie looked up. You thought he was dangerous? He nodded. Everyone did. After what happened with my grandson, people needed someone to blame. I let the fence speak for him. Rex lay at Ellie's feet now, eyes half closed, tail sweeping the floor. You tore down more than one fence, huh? Harold said, glancing at him. Ellie smiled. He tore down every wall around me. They sat in silence for a while. Then Ellie said, Do you think people really change? Harold thought for a moment. No, I think some people just finally get seen for who they always were. She nodded. That's Rex. Harold turned to her. And that's you, too. The baby let out a small giggle and tried to climb into Rex's lap. The dog shifted gently to steady him. Ellie looked down at them, then back at Harold. He saved me from everything I couldn't say. He gave me a voice without ever speaking a word. Harold smiled. Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear collars and scars. Ellie reached down and clipped the old collar around Rex's neck. It fit perfectly. No more cages, she whispered. No more fences. Rex raised his head and looked at her, tail thumping once. The wind moved through the trees like a whisper, and for the first time there was nothing in the way. Not between them, not around them, not anymore.
Did this story touch your heart? Give it a thumbs up, share it around, and drop your location in the comments.